Hello guys, this is Abby from Witchcraft Criminal History. How you doing today? Hopefully you're doing well. Well, today we're doing another crime video. Yay! And this is on a serial killer which I actually got a good friend. And she absolutely adores, even though adore's not really that, type of thing, but she's fascinated with this case, and so it's coming up to Easter. This could be my Easter gift to her. Because, my friend over the States, she is pretty much the American version of myself. We're both into criminal history. So yeah, and we help each other out because we're both uni students. And my friend, lucky bugger, she had a course which was to deal with serial killers. And most of the time she was actually coming to me for advice. And because she says, and I quote, "You shouldn't be a student, you should be teaching when it comes to serial killers. I should be teaching the subject." But just like anything, it's practice, and I've been studying serial killers for a very long time. And that's the way I was, But anyway, let's get back to this video. So, shout out to my friend Tammy Drudge. Anyway, this video is about, it's about the Zodiac Killer. Okay, let's get one thing, clear right here, right now, in regards to the Zodiac. There is 2 Zodiac killers. There is 2. We are not talking about the copycat on this video. There was a copycat, and if my memory serves me correctly, that one, the copycat was, I think it was in Los Angeles, and it was committed by a black man. I can't exactly remember too much, but he claimed he was the Zodiac. But he was a copycat, which is a big risk with any serial murder, regardless of the crimes. There is a risk of some nut job, copying another criminal's, handiwork. So it can be really, really difficult. So there is, 2 Zodiacs, and that's one thing I told my friend. You got to be careful when you're studying the Zodiac, because when you're studying the Zodiac, there's 2. You can get wires crossed, you can get information, mixed up with the Zodiac. And the Zodiac, unlike, other unsolved crimes, because this is unsolved, no one to this day knows who the Zodiac is. There are suspects of who the Zodiac is. Even one what I thought was actually quite interesting, quite plausible, because this person definitely had the smarts to do it. He was in the area at that particular time. And, I also got a theory of it, because with one of the codes, I was able to read with something in the code. So yeah, I'm actually saying that I actually, if my translation, if it's correct, I might have got some information on one of these mystery codes. So that's true, and if I have cracked a little bit of it, yay! I'm a smart cookie. But then again, it's staring right in your face, so. But anyway, let's get back to it. Let's talk about the Zodiac. Alright. The Zodiac The Zodiac was a serial killer. He was unidentified. They do not know who he is. And he was killing in Northern California in the 1960s all the way up to the early 1970s. And because he's not caught, they're not quite sure exactly his kill count. They got ones where they suspect is the Zodiac, and they also got ones which they know for a fact are the Zodiac. The Zodiac has actually said, I did it. But that's a big issue with most serial killers, Even the ones that have been caught and locked away, like, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Dennis Rader, Gary Ridgway, Ivan Milat. We do not know exactly how many people they killed. We don't know. But what makes it even harder is if they have never been caught like the Zodiac. We don't know. We don't know exactly how many people he killed. The Zodiac killer, he's definitely, will be classed as a serial killer. He's not a spree killer. He is not a mass murderer. He is a serial killer. Because there's definitely a break. And he was primarily targeting young couples on lovers' lanes. That's what he was usually doing. That was his thing. Targeting those, innocent people. They go on the first date, then this guy would turn up. They'll think he's a cop because he's coming there with a torch. They're blinded by the torch, or what in America what you call a flashlight. They get blinded by that, and usually with the police, the way they approach, especially if it's late at night, they would have a flashlight, to see what they're doing and to survey the area. And this is no different to what the Zodiac did. And, if you saw somebody approaching your vehicle, especially like if you're on lovers' lanes, you wouldn't be, if you see a guy approaching your car with a flashlight, the first thing that goes through your mind, it's the cops. It's the police. Am I going to get fined? Are they going to just tell me to, move my car? I'm not supposed to park here. Or are you in really deep trouble if you're, let's say, you're 19, but your sweetheart's 16. You could be in deep trouble. But, you will be thinking that, it's the police. Sadly for these victims, it wasn't the police, it was the Zodiac. But this method of operandi, this MO, isn't, unique to the Zodiac. There are other killers who did the same thing. His first known killings was David Arthur Faraday, who was 17 years of age, and Betty Lou Jensen. They were shot and killed on the 20th of December 1968 on Lake Herman Road. Both David and Betty Lou, this was their first date. Like he was 17, she was 16. They went there to have some private time, being young lovers. They thought it was safe, they thought it was quiet, when out of the blue someone drove up behind them, shining a torch in their face. Then this person, had a gun, shot and killed David Faraday, his girlfriend, Betty, she actually got out of the car and she started running for it. She ran for her life. But sadly, she couldn't escape the Zodiac, and she was shot and killed. And when the police arrived at this particular scene, it was a scene that they weren't really common, were a bit shocked by. And, so they started, working on the case. However, they had no inkling that this was the start of something big. They had no idea. The San Francisco Police Department had no idea that this was going to be something really, really large. That was until July 4th, 1969. On July 4th, 1969, Michael Renaud Magoo, who was 19, and his girlfriend Darlene Elizabeth Ferrin. Darlene Elizabeth Ferrin, she was 22. And they were also on another Lover's Lane. They were at the parking lot at Blue Rock Springs in Vallejo, where once again, they were, ambushed by this person. They thought once again that this person was a cop. Because he had a bright light, the flashlight or torch, what we call in Australia. Or in the UK, they call them torches. And that's what that first thing they thought when this guy opened fire. Michael, 19-year-old Michael, actually survived the attack. He actually just, he survived it. However, his sweetheart, Darlene, sadly died in the hospital. She died upon arrival. And I think it was at this time that the police had the first contact from the Zodiac. And he said, I killed those 2 people in Vallejo, and last year I also killed that couple on Lake Herman Road. And one thing what terrifies the 911 operator to this very day was the way he said goodbye. The way he pretty much said it was goodbye. And that was the last, phone call from the Zodiac. At this time, they, knew they had a serial killer on their hands. And later on that year, on September 27th, Brian Calvin Hartnell, who was 20, and his sweetheart Cecilia Ann Shepard, they, were on a date, and, at Lake Berryessa, they were on a date. I think they were on one of those little islands, because when the tide got low, you could walk out there. While they were there, Cecilia was, noticing a man standing, over there, and she actually told Brian that, did you notice that guy over there? And he turned around, didn't see anything. The first thing what Brian thought was, it's just probably because it's a public lake, probably somebody just, having a pee. But Cecilia, she was very concerned. And, but she just ignored it. Until this person, dressed up in black, with pretty much like an executioner style, hood over his face with the sign of the target or the sign of the Zodiac on front of his shirt. He was armed with a gun and armed with a knife. He told them that all he wanted was their money. He was a convict on the run, and all he wanted was their money and their car. That was all he wanted. And he just wanted to tie them up, take their stuff, and leave. So Cecilia and Brian did exactly as the Zodiac got asked. And sadly, you know, the Zodiac's true intention was not theft. I think Brian was the first to be attacked, and he was stabbed 8 times, and, Cecilia was, tied up next to him, and she knew what was going to happen to her. She heard her boyfriend being stabbed, and probably going through her mind, she thought that he was being murdered. Then he turned his sights on Cecilia, and he did the same thing to her. They both had stab wounds on the back, and I think they also had some around the chest as well, around the front of the chest. And he left them for dead. They were, still alive, and they clinged for life, both of these two. And they tried to get help. Cecilia couldn't really move. She was in that much pain. And it soon got dark. And then eventually they saw a fishing, a dinghy. We call it a dinghy or a little boat, with a couple of fishermen, on board. They screamed at the boat, trying to get help. And the boat came closer and then took off. And they thought, oh, they didn't see us. And Brian made the gut-wrenching decision that if they had a chance of survival, one of them had to try and make it to the road. So Brian, although he was severely injured himself, actually made his way slowly to the main road. While, losing, a hell of a lot of blood. Little did Brian or Cecilia know that the people in the boat actually went to the park ranger to get help, to get an ambulance for them. But sadly, Cecilia actually succumbed to her injuries, and, she passed away. So that what happened, with Brian and Cecilia. The next murder to occur was on the 11th of October 1969 at Presidio Heights in San Francisco. And this was of a taxi driver. This one was the only one which wasn't a young couple. This guy, unfortunately, had, the wrong customer. He was literally in the wrong place at the wrong time. And this guy's name was Paul Lee Stein. He was 29. Somewhere, in San Francisco, Paul Stein picked up the Zodiac. He had no idea it was the Zodiac. And when they arrived at the destination at Presidio Heights, this customer turned on him and shot him. There were witnesses to this crime, and he actually took some clothing. But the funny thing is, with all these crimes, the Zodiac, left calling cards that he would love to mock people. They said, he said, I'm going to tell you who I am. I've got these codes. You decipher them, and you know who I am. And with this particular case, with this incident with Paul Stein, he actually pretty much told the San Francisco PD that they were pretty much idiots, that their cop car pulled him over, questioned him for a little bit, seeing whether he was a witness or anything, and let him go. Because of the murder of Paul Stein, they didn't think it was a Zodiac, and they thought that they were looking for a black man. So they were looking for an African American, not the Zodiac. And at this time, they knew that the Zodiac was a white man, a Caucasian. And he actually made fun and go, "You guys think you're so smart. You had a couple of your coppers come around, And, they spoke to me on the street, but they can't solve shit. Excuse my language. And that was the Zodiac. Well, the Zodiac did. He loved to taunt. And with Brian and Celia at Lake Berryessa, he carved onto their car, his, call sign, which was, a circle with a cross, with the dates of his murders and his score. So, he would have his number and how much the police got. Supposedly the police had 0. But after Paul Stein, there was no more murders connected to the original Zodiac. However, there were some crimes which they suspected could be the Zodiac, but they aren't sure. And they probably will never be quite sure unless this case gets solved and the Zodiac, providing he's still alive, tells them it's me. Yeah, the crimes he was suspected of killing, that he was connected with, was the earliest one was on 4th of June, 1963, of Robert Domingo, who was 18, and Linda Edwards, who was 17 years of age. And their crimes in 1963 were pretty much a mirror image of the Lake Berryessa murders. So they were stabbed. They were attacked at a beach in Gavato or something. I'm probably butchering that name. If you're from San Francisco, Tammy, I apologize. But this crime, mirrored that. And these were young people, and apparently it was Robert's father who found the bodies. The next crime, which they suspected was connected with the Zodiac, was of Cherie Jo Bates, who was 18, and she was stabbed and pretty much nearly decapitated on October 30th, 1966, at Riverside City College in Riverside. Once again, they thought that this could be connected to the Zodiac. The next one was of Donna Lass. She was 25. She was last seen on September 6, 1970, in State Line, Nevada. So, if this is him, he's, moving around, which is not new, because she actually disappeared, and they think that her disappearance was connected to the Zodiac. So they don't know what happened to her. And also they suspected that because there was another case going on at that particular time called the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders. And they think that the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murderer and the Zodiac murderer are one and the same. But once again, they are not quite sure. And another one which I thought was, to do with the Zodiac was of Kathleen Johns, who's 22. She was abducted on the 22nd of March, 1970, on a highway near Modesto. And she escaped the car. And she was able to get into a man who was actually driving his car with his infant daughter to safety. And I think that she could have been, one of another possible victim of the Zodiac. So with the Zodiac loved to taunt people. He loved to taunt the police. It was cat and mouse. And he pretty much was like going, I did this, you can't catch me, try and catch me, I'm smarter than you, you guys are just dumb cops. And that's what the Zodiac was pretty much doing. And in my analysis with him is that he is both a psychopath and he probably has sociopathic, behaviours, because to him, these people were chattel. If you want to know what chattel is another word for property. They're there to satisfy him. Nothing more. The Zodiac is a genius. He's highly intelligent, whoever he is. And there were, evidence, which were left in the crime, especially the one at Lake Berryessa. In Lake Berryessa, they found footprints which matched a very rare boot. Very, very rare. And this boot was called wing walkers. You asked me, what's a wing walker? You told me it's a boot, but what's a wing walker? Wing walkers were only given in either the Navy or the Air Force. They were given to them, and these were mainly pretty much given to like engineers, pilots, to prevent static. Because when you're dealing with aircraft, especially if there is, a missile, attached to the plane, the one thing you do not want is to cause a spark and then boom. You don't want that. And that's the reason why they have moonwalkers, because they were designed to stop friction. Because if there's friction around a plane, not a good idea. It's not a good idea, especially if you're around like explosives and all that. And that's the reason why you had moonwalkers. They sent a bunch of, the Zodiac also sent, codes, into the police. And only one got solved by a mathematician. And that one was pretty much saying, oh, I love to kill. Killing is fun. It's a good sport. Around that, theme of the letter, and this guy was a maths teacher. And the thing is, I've got my own theory, in regards to this killer. And I will be, telling you that at the end of this video. Now we'll get down to the suspects. The main suspect, what a lot of people think who was Arthur Lee Allen. Arthur Lee Allen had a striking appearance and looked very similar to the sketch of the Zodiac. And he was underneath their radar for quite some time. But they could never prove anything, and also Arthur Lee Allen was also a genius. And but they could never pin it on him. He also had military background. He was in the Navy. And he was discharged in 1958. So there's, that suspect. However, we know it is not Arthur Lee Allen, because the letters which was sent into San Francisco PD, the DNA did not match Arthur Lee Allen. And I think that the DNA was of a female, and no women attached to Arthur Lee Allen also didn't fit, so he didn't get his girlfriend to lick the envelope. So he was ruled out as a suspect, but he was the main suspect, what they believed was the Zodiac. And another one which I heard quite recently for the Zodiac was the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. That, because Ted Kaczynski was in the San Francisco area, and at the time of his murders was the dark ages of Ted Kaczynski. Because the reason why it's dark ages, the simple fact is, we don't know what he was doing when the Zodiac was killing. We don't know. We don't know where he is. Because just before the Zodiac killed, he was working in the university as a mathematics professor. And as we know, later on, he became the Unabomber And he also had the same type of things. He was a professor of mathematics. And those codes were derived by advanced mathematics. So there is a strong possibility that it's Ted Kaczynski. And as far as I know, I don't think they have tried to see whether the DNA matched Ted Kaczynski. And I know one thing for certain, if it definitely matches Ted Kaczynski, I think, it will definitely be an eye-opener, because he was very, very smart, extremely smart. And if it is him with these letters, I wouldn't be at all surprised if he would get complete strangers to lick the envelopes for him. Complete strangers. I wouldn't be at all surprised. This was his MO. He would go to public bathrooms, for example, pick up random hairs and put them in his bombs, so when the police came to these sites after a bombing, that they think, oh, we got DNA. This is some poor person who, accidentally used the same bathroom as Ted Kaczynski. And, he would steal the parts as well, so there was no connection, to Ted Kaczynski. And he was only caught because his brother suspected him of being the Unabomber. Otherwise, the Unabomber would also be an unsolved case. So there is a suspicion that he is the Unabomber. I mean, he's not only the Unabomber, but he's also the Zodiac. And also another thing which is also quite interesting about Ted Kaczynski is also he had, once again, a striking, appearance, which also looked very much alike the Zodiac. Alright, now let's have a little chat in regards to this case and what I believe. When I was, studying this case, and I had those, those codes, and one thing was came up to my mind, they said that this was wingwalkers, and the way these murders were occurring. To me, this is military. This screams out military. Definitely do with the Navy or the Air Force. Because especially where this is, there's a lot of strategy involved. He was going to these places. He scoped them out. These people were pretty much stalked. He knew, he knew he couldn't get caught. And he was quite smart. He knew he wasn't going to get caught red-handed. And that took military precision. So because he not only would know how to scope into a place, after he committed a murder, he had to get out without being seen, if possible. That took military precision. So this person, from the evidence, from what I believe, from what I've heard, is military. Especially even with the code, with the target. Also, in some ways, relates to military. It's like a target. Like what you would have with, not assassins, with snipers. They would have those things like on, on those sights, I think you call it sights, on rifles. And that one thing, reminds me of that. So it's definitely, military. And I was thinking, what was the military doing when the Zodiac was killing? What was they doing? So I did some research. Oh yeah, the military were doing something alright then. This was pretty much a dead smack bang in the middle of the Vietnam War. Soldiers were being sent to Vietnam. And because people were being sent to Vietnam, you know, people weren't quite sure whether they were going to live or die. And one thing what I noticed also on one of their codes, there was 3 letters down the bottom, and this was in English. And this is one of the codes which hasn't been broken. And there's 3 letters in English. And it was N-A-M. NAM. You might think, what do you mean by NAM? Military. A lot of people in the military who served in Vietnam, they call it NAM. N-A-M, NAM. They go, oh, I remember NAM. I don't want to go to NAM. You know, they would refer it as NAM. And if I am correct, the Zodiac might not have told them who he was, but it could have been telling them where he was going. And I think that he, just like Gordon Cummings, you know, could have had the same type of issue, you know, as Gordon Cummings. He knew he was going to be sent away. He knew he was going to be deployed to Vietnam. Whoever this guy is, whoever the Zodiac is. And, you know, because when they go in training, you know, they have to go in training. Or he knew that there was a high probability of him, you know, being deployed to Vietnam. And he probably thought the same thing Gordon Cummings, you know, thought. And he probably thought, stuff it, I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't know whether I'm going to live or die. They're sending thousands of, you know, people to battle in Vietnam. My name could be next to be deployed to Vietnam. I'm going to do what I want to do before I get before I get sent to Vietnam. And I think it's very highly probable that he was sent to Vietnam. And I think that soldiers who either came around the San Francisco area or came out, you know, from other parts of the US, had a train in San Francisco at this particular time, I think that they should be checked, the ones who went to Vietnam. Because I find it very suspicious that after the murder of the taxi driver, that the murder, and with serial killers, they do not stop. You know, they can't stop. They either die, or they move on, or they're in jail. And I believe that he got deployed to Vietnam. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and blessed be.